Hello, welcome back to the final part of the three-part video series that ended up being a four-part video series. So this is the last part, part 3B. Welcome, and I hope you enjoy.
The next thing that I have here is what I call resonating the input with flashcards. And so I'm going to explain now what I mean by this. I said before that I don't recommend that people just use flashcards, because that doesn't, as we talked about, that doesn't really stimulate your brain in the way that you need to for the language to be acquired. It's just not a very good way to do it. It doesn't build the neural network that you need to build. But what I'm talking about here is resonating the input, the things that you've listened to and read with flashcards. Okay, so we're going to look at how to do this, or how I do this in detail now. Okay, so here we are, and I am the first thing that you should do is get a Google plugin called Language Reactor. And so you can Google this and get it on your computer. It has to be in Chrome. And then the next thing you want to get is something called Flashcard Lab. And you will want to get this on both on your computer and on your smartphone. And then what Language Reactor allows you to do is to watch YouTube videos and have all of these supports. You have these subtitles, these captions, and automatic dictionary functions. You can find out what words mean as you're watching the video. This is, again, my Vietnamese story. And then Flashcard Lab works with Google Sheets. So you set up your flashcards there, and then what you can do is you can copy portions of the transcript of the subtitles or the captions in Language Reactor from your YouTube video. You can copy that and then go over to Google Sheets and paste that in and put the meaning in, and now you have flashcards set up. So on your smartphone, you have the app, the Flashcards Lab app, and you can access that and then review the flashcards that you've created in Google Sheets. And so here you see I have all of these Vietnamese flashcards that I've set up. And so here's an example of that. You can flip between the language that you're working on and English. So again, this is what I call resonating the input. So you have, what you've listened to, what you've read, and then you're going to take pieces of that input, phrases and sentences, and put them on your flashcards. And you can go through these during the day when you have, a few minutes here and there. And it's not to try to memorize the things on the flashcards. That's not what we're trying to do. What you want to do is you want to just read it and understand it. And so this is putting you back in touch with some part of the input that you've had, the story that you were listening to, what you were reading. It brings that back around, so it's like an echo or a resonation, right, of that input that kind of brings that up again in your mind. And so it continues to stimulate those neural pathways, those networks that are being created. The last part about input here is that I recommend that you do both active and passive activities. And this mainly has to do with listening. So the active part, you can see here I have on my Bluetooth earphones, and I'm listening also while I'm reading in Tagalog here. And so this is very active. I'm very focused on what I'm doing. Now,
the passive part, for instance, here I've got my earphones on, and for me, like when I'm cooking or cleaning, I've always got my earphones on, and I'm always re-listening to things that I've listened to. It's good to listen to old material, very easy material, so that you don't really have to focus actively on it. It's just kind of like in the background. And this is very, very effective when you're cooking, when you're cleaning. Well, I exercise, right? I run most days of the week. And so while I'm running, also I have on my earphones, and I'm listening to my Tagalog or my Vietnamese content. Expose yourself to as much input as you can. Then now we come to find out. So I've already kind of talked about this. As you're listening to things, as you're reading things, you're going to come to some things that you don't understand. And in a lot of cases, you can just let that go and not worry about it. It will come up again, maybe in a different context that will help you to understand it. You don't need to worry about it too much. But for me, sometimes there are things that I become very curious about. What does that mean? I've heard that, 5 or 6 times over the last week in different things that I've listened to. What on earth is that? What is that I'm hearing? And so then I might kind of develop a hypothesis of my own. And so finding out is one thing you can do, is confirm that hypothesis. I think it means this, but I just want to check and make sure, is one thing. The other thing is just things that you honestly don't understand, that you have no idea what they mean. You can find out what they mean, and this is going to build your understanding and take you to the next level as you're listening to and reading things. Now, an important point here, again, is don't try to memorize. You just want to kind of unlock the door for yourself for understanding, so that you can understand the thing that you were listening to or the thing that you were reading. And so again, this is a cycle, right? You're going to go back and forth between finding out and reading and listening. Okay, so as you're cycling back and forth between input and finding out, and you begin to get to the point where you're understanding a lot of the language, and you're feeling like you kind of know the language, you know how it works, you understand, 60, 70, 80% of what you're listening to, of what you're reading, then you can begin to start trying to kind of activate your ability to produce the language. And there are some things that we can do that can help this. The first thing is reading out loud. It will help you begin to train the muscles in your mouth, so that you can begin to pronounce the sounds and begin to produce the language smoothly. Now, again, it's very important that you don't start trying to read, especially read out loud, before you have listened to hours and hours of the language and you know what the language sounds like, because you want to have a voice in your head. You will begin to develop in your head like an inner voice that you can hear. That would be like, for me, in my case, I'm working on Vietnamese and Tagalog. I can hear that in my head, how it's supposed to sound, because I've listened to so many hours of that. And so when I begin to read out loud, I know what it's supposed to sound like. So it's not like I'm sounding out words, or like I'm trying to pronounce words and I don't know, I have no idea what it's supposed to sound like. That won't do you much good. Another thing that you can do, in addition to reading out loud, is while you're listening, you can try to repeat what you're hearing in real time. And this is called shadowing. And it's not just like you listen to something and then you repeat it. It's a little bit different than that. The point of shadowing is that you're going to try to say the thing almost at the same time as you're hearing it, so that it's almost like the thing is being said and you're almost overlapping. This trains the same kind of thing as reading out loud. It's going to help you pronounce the language, develop the ability to do that. But also, it's going to give you kind of a fluency, or the ability to produce the language quickly enough to be able to use it in real time. Now, with shadowing, what I would suggest that you do is that you can adjust the speed of whatever it is that you're listening to. You should be able to adjust that. You should have, a software, an application, or whatever it is that you're using that will allow you to adjust the speed. And so at first, it may be very difficult for you to keep up with the person speaking at a natural speed, at the actual speed. And so you might want to slow that down to 75% and then bring it up to 100%. And eventually, if you really want to use this to develop fluency, you can actually speed up the thing that you're listening to so that it's like 110% or 120%, so that it's going faster than it is in real life, and try to keep up with that. And you'll find that if you get to that level and you can keep up with that, when you bring it back down to the real speed, it's going to feel very comfortable. It will feel very manageable. Another thing that you can do is you can write in a journal. And I'm doing this in Tagalog, and I'm just writing a little bit, and I'm just kind of narrating a few things that I did the day before. Some of the things that I did, some of the things that happened. And please, when you're doing this, don't just write what you want to write in Chat GPT or Google Translate or whatever in English, and then write down the translation. That will do you like zero good. What you should do is don't worry about getting it 100% correct. Just spit it out on the page. Write what you want to write. If there are words that you don't know yet, then just write them in English or in a language that you know. And then once you've written your journal entry, then you can go back and kind of, maybe look up some of those words with Google Translate or DeepL or, Chat GPT or whatever it is that you want to use to do that. But don't let that become the main focus of what you're doing. The purpose of this activity is to begin to put into use the things that you have been bringing into your brain through input. And so you want to just do it. You just want to do it, and don't worry about whether or not it is correct at first. The correctness will come as you listen and read more and more. Okay, it's not something that's going to come to you through studying and trying to memorize the phrases or the grammar. It's going to come as a sense, right? Just like in your first language, you could speak the language correctly, right? Before you ever went to school and studied grammar, which you probably don't remember any of that now anyway. But that's the way that it works. So the more that you listen and read, the more correct your sense of the language. That's what you want to develop. Again, the voice in your head, your sense for using the language. It's not so much of a knowledge, but a sense or a feeling that will help you to do that. And writing in a journal is one way that you can begin to produce the language, kind of relying on that sense. Okay. And then, of course, the last thing is to have actual conversation. Self-talk. You can think of it as conversation with yourself. So this would be the first kind of level, is to talk to yourself. And some people find it effective to interview themselves, to think of a question that you would ask and then try to answer that question. And it helps to actually speak out loud. Okay. If you're embarrassed to do that, or you're in a place where people are around and you don't want to, it's okay to, to just try to think in the language. That's good also. But if you can, if you're someplace that you can do it, then try actually speaking out loud in the language. Ask yourself a question and answer the question and have a conversation with yourself. Okay, so this would be like the first level. The second thing that you can do is you can have a conversation with your computer. Probably the best thing that you can use right now, I think, is ChatGPT, and you can download the application on your smartphone or your tablet. And on my smartphone, I'm going to show you now. You can actually have a conversation with your smartphone, and this is a very good way to develop fluency, even above maybe self-talk, because you have to respond to something that you didn't think yourself. It's kind of like you have to develop that ability to respond to something that you weren't expecting, which is is a challenge with conversation. You don't ever know what the person is going to say, and you have to be able to respond to that. So let's look then at me having a conversation with my phone, my smartphone, and then we'll come back.
I just want to show you briefly now how you can use the ChatGPT app on your smartphone or your tablet to have a conversation practice, even when you don't have a conversation partner. Please pardon the low quality video shot here. I tried to do this in a more technologically sophisticated way, but I couldn't get it to work, so I will just be aiming my smartphone at my tablet. So here we go. Okay, so as you can see, I have here the ChatGPT app on my iPad, and I'm going to go ahead and open this up, and it will bring up the prompt here. So once you get to this point, you'll notice that in the lower right-hand corner there is a little icon of headphones. So you can actually just tap on that, and you can see me in the reflection here. Today I would like to practice a conversation with you in Tagalog. You will play the role of a friend of mine that lives in the Philippines, and we will have a casual conversation, all in the Filipino language.
Sure, I'll play the role of your friend from the Philippines. Let's start our casual conversation. Kumusta ka? Anong ginagawa mo ngayon araw?
So in order to keep the conversation from moving on, you can touch this circle with your finger, and it will keep it. You can continue talking until you release, as it says here, release to send. Kamusta ka? Ngayon, araw, gusto ko makipag-usap tungkol sa ang kultura ng Pilipinas.
Maganda yan. Anong parte ng kultura ng Pilipinas ang gusto mong pag-usapan? Marami tayong pwedeng pag-usapan tungkol dyan.
Sobrang interesado ko tungkol sa ang aspekto ng kultura ng Pilipinas na may isang meskla ng kultura, ang mga kultura ng Amerikano at Espanyol, at ang mga indigenous katubo, ang mga katubo ng Pilipinas.
Tama ka diyan. Ang kulturang Pilipino ay talagang mayaman at napakadaming aspeto. Ang impluensya ng mga Kastila at Amerikano ay halata sa ating wika, pananamit, at pati na rin sa ating mga tradisyon at pagkain. Ano pa ang gusto mong malaman tungkol dito?
Pakiusap sa akin tungkol sa ang mga parte ng kultura ng Pilipinas ay may mas impluensya mula sa ang mga katubo ng Pilipinas.
Tiyak? Maraming aspeto ng kultura ng Pilipinas na malaki ang impluensya mula sa mga katutubong tribo at lahi. Halimbawa, ang musika at sayaw tulad ng tinikling at singkil ay nagmula sa mga katutubong tradisyon.
Napaka-interesante. Gusto ko alam mas tungkol sa ang sayaw ng katubo, ang mga katubo sa Pilipinas.
Talaga bang interesado ka sa sayaw ng mga katutubo? Ang mga sayaw ng mga katutubo sa Pilipinas ay napakahusay at puno ng kasaysayan at kahulugan. Mayroong iba't ibang uri ng sayaw depende sa tribo at rehiyon sa bansa. Halimbawa, ang tinikling mula sa Visayas at ang singkil mula sa Mindanao ay ilan lamang sa mga kilalang sayaw ng mga katutubo.
Salamat. Salamat para sa interesanteng makipag-usap. Paalam. Ingat.
Walang anuman.
Okay, so you can see that chat is has a lot to say, and there's a lot to be learned. I certainly didn't understand everything that chat told me, but I was able to understand enough to keep the conversation moving. But the neat part about this is, as you can see, there is a transcript that is created of everything that is said, what you said, and then what chat responds. And so you can go in and check, the things that you didn't quite catch or understand. And then if you tap on this, you get some options. And what you can do is you can copy and paste it into, an online dictionary, or you can also listen to it again, which is really neat.
Talaga bang interesado ka sa sayaw ng mga katutubo? Ang mga sayaw ng mga katutubo sa Pilipinas ay napakahusay at punong kasaysayan at kahulugan.
So I'm going to go ahead and stop that. We won't listen to the whole thing. But see, then you can read along with what chat is saying, which is also very beneficial. So this really is a great tool, and I highly recommend that you give this a try. If you're feeling a little apprehensive about diving in to have a conversation with a real person, which I have not done yet in Tagalog. So this is about my second or third conversation ever in Tagalog with chat. And so you got to see that complete with all of my mistakes and hesitations.
Okay, so in addition to self-talk and having a conversation with your device, of course, the other thing that you can do is to have an actual conversation with a person. And so that's kind of like the final stop in your journey. And once you begin to be able to do that, then you just go back through this cycle, this acquisition cycle, and keep moving forward until you reach a level that you feel comfortable in. Whether that is just the ability to converse, or maybe you want to be able to give lectures or to negotiate in the language and develop really high professional proficiency in the language. Whatever you want to do, it's available to you, and you can achieve that through using these tools. So if you've made it to the end of this series, which I hope that you have, I congratulate you. And again, I want to tell you that this is something that you can do remember to keep a growth mindset and know that there are many, many people that have used these activities and these tools to acquire languages. They work, and I recommend them to you. So please, you can come back to this series if you need to and rewatch. But the main thing that you should be doing is listening to and watching and reading content in the language that you are interested in learning. And so I wish you the best of luck with doing that. And I know that you can succeed. So go and do it. Bye-bye.